Hey everyone, I'm Ian Plant, your host of PhotoMasters Live, and I am extremely pleased to be joined today by a most excellent photographer and a new good friend, Jeffrey Wu. Jeffrey is a Canadian professional wildlife and nature photographer. He is an artist, author, educator, conservationist, and also a world-renowned photographic competition judge. And by the way, Jeffrey is also considered to be one of the most influential wildlife photographers in China. And Jeffrey specializes in African wildlife photography, where he spends 10 months of every year there, mainly in Kenya. That's a lot of time to be on location making photos. I'm very jealous of that. His photos and articles have been published in more than 120 publications worldwide. So to sum it up, Jeffrey has won tons of awards. His photos are everywhere. His photos are awesome. And I'm really happy to have his undivided attention for the next hour or more if we're lucky. Jeffrey Wu, welcome to PhotoMasters Live.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for inviting me. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey.
I wanted to talk about some of your photographs and how they were made, but in particular, I want to talk about your artistic approach. And I wanted to start with this quote from you. Life is not about how many breaths you take, but about the moments that take your breath away. Because it seems to me this kind of sums up your artistic approach and really, I think, speaks to what it is you're trying to accomplish as an artist. So, maybe as we're looking through some of these photos of yours, you can talk about that quote and how it applies to these photographs and your process and your approach overall to wildlife photography.
Well, to be honest with you, right now, I kind of hate this image. And it's probably one of my most well-known image of the cheetah flipping, which I photographed in 2019 February. I was leading a tour. That cheetah we have been following for many years. The cheetah name is Imani. It's a female. And that day she was very hungry because the day before we followed her until sunset, and she's kind of weak. She's super hungry. She's kind of weak because the day we were seeing her, she actually tried to vomiting something out of it, and she just for the most of the day she just lying in the bush. But we know she's super hungry because her belly is very flat. So next morning we went to where we left her in the morning, went back. And very soon we find her, and she is already stalking a herd of the impala, about 70 of them. So we predicted where this hunt's gonna happening, and we park our car about 120 meters behind the impala because when cheetah start chasing impala, the impala will run, cheetah will follow. So the kill zone is approximately about 120 meters. So we park our car there, and we did not know this image was so close. I shot this image so close. Actually, luckily, that's one of the reason is when you go to Kenya or in Africa, you want to do the action shot like this, you must bring a zoom lens because we shot this, two full-grown mammals from 15 to 20 meters away. If you use a 600 millimeter, basically it's all of frame. So we be able to reduce the focal length with the zoom lens. I reduce 180 millimeters to shot this. So this is the only image I can contain two bodies. My second image, the tail and the leg of the cheetah is already out of frame, just too close. Mm-hmm. And so this when the cheetah start to run, this is not original target the cheetah was going after, but because of 70 gazelles and super dry, you can see the dust. So when cheetah come to run, and all the impala just run every directions like explosion, and all of a sudden dust just cover everything. And then we try to find the cheetah. She actually lost her first target, and then she turned around, running almost 45 degrees toward our vehicle, and the impala actually did not see where the cheetah is. When that female impala found the cheetah just like 1 or 2 meters in front of her, she tried to jump over cheetah's head. and cheetah just race up, follow the impala, flip her body. You can see the paw just pull the impala's side and pull it down on the ground, and then hunted that impala. So, I mean, of course, this is one of the lifetime opportunity to photograph something like this, because that's the only time I see cheetah actually in the air flipping. Not that's the second time I see. But first time we did not capture it. That's another cheetah hunt for 5 boys. But I think this is one of the one in life opportunities. You can say I'm getting very lucky, but also because I was there 10 months per year, and cheetah hunt is my most favorite subject to photograph. So as African National Geographic editor point out that I have been photographing for past 10 years, more than 300, actually until today is 418 cheetah hunts. I think that's a world record. I don't see any other photographer photograph cheetah hunt like I do. That's just the most fascinating, amazing shot I ever get. But the problem is, this is a very good action shot, and I was lucky enough because I was there. But I don't want this image actually define what kind of photographer that I am. Because number one, of course, I get this shot. It's very rare, but it's just a luck. It's an opportunity. Number two is this is basically a reporting piece. You don't editorial piece. So that's not much post-processing involved. So in the post-processing, you don't really have a lot of space to express how you feel about that. So basically just crop, denoise, add a little bit of the contrast and the color of the scene, and that's it. So, but if you look at my portfolio, it's quite extensive, from action-packed storytelling job to sunset, sunrise, what we call animalscape, to high photography at night, shooting at high ISO, to black and white fine art. But I mean, when people now talk about, this is a guy who's shooting the cheetah flipper. So I kind of do not really like this image. It's being talked about too much.
Well, I think that's pretty common. I think most photographers probably feel that their most popular images are the ones that they like the least. And I will say, in defense of this image, that this is a very difficult image to get. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Africa myself, not nearly as much as you have, but enough to know that it is very rare to see these hunts, and to be able to successfully photograph them. It's very, very challenging. But I do understand what you're saying about this image. And actually, this next image of yours, this is the image that I think you should be known for. This is probably my favorite photo of yours. And you've got a lot of amazing photos, but this one really speaks to me. I absolutely love this. So could you tell us more about this?
So this is the image actually I was taking from the helicopter. I was with the Mara Elephant Project director, Mark Goss. And we actually, that day, we were in the Lake Magadi area in Kenya. We were photographing the flamingos out over the lake with a pattern. And on the way back to the camp, we noticed that there's a very, very big herd of elephants, about 150 of them, just passed by from the Masai Mara Plateau. The camp we are staying, they are right on the escarpment of Masai Mara Plateau, and toward Amboseli, on that area. You see lots of elephant moving, from Masai Mara. Usually they come down from the river streams along the riverbed, walking down slowly. But these big herd of elephant actually come down directly from the escarpment. And that's a very steep escarpment, and you can see in this image that some calf are very young. So it's all. This is even for Mark. He's a director of Mara Elephant Project. It's quite kind of rare to see. So we were circling around this elephant. We try to see which matriarch there, because we really want to follow in this herd for the future study. just to see their past, how they every time come down with such a steep backdrop about 1,200 meters, which is about 3,000 feet down. And number two is they came from the mall forest, which is quite luscious in the vegetation in the trees, so they have enough food. But they actually walk down to the dry desert area at the bottom of East Rift Valley. So we really want to, how to say, we really want to color this matriarch of this big herd. So that's the time we actually, our helicopter went into this on top of this herd, just to figure out which one is the matriarch, bring this big herd down to this area. And I think the actually after that, not long time after, the Mara Elephant Project actually went to that herd and actually also colored the matriarch. So now we have a complete geo route for this whole herd, and why they move out and when they move out and how far they can move out, and are they finally going to reach the amblesitic area or not, etc. So that's a research value. And I use this one. I think I did photograph this. Use a 7,200 millimeter lens with 1.4 teleconverter. So it's about 280 millimeter. Shot from the low altitude, just to see. You can see this is the big herd is 150, so they are scattered around. But we pass this one, actually, you can see some people said, "Oh, you may scare the elephant." True, but not this one. When you scare the elephant in the air, if you really be in the helicopter, you will know they will turn back and run away. But this one is not really. The mother is very vigilant. You can see the mother is facing us with another two elephants beside. It's smaller than the mother, but also in the herd with these three calves. So you can see all 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 6 elephants all facing us. Mm-hmm. So they are not really scared. They actually try to scare us. So
exactly. It's an aggressive posture rather than a defensive posture.
Try to chase us away. So we just did a pass by. I was using, the good thing is I was using Nikon Z9. So we just one pass by. We shot about 20 frames per second. I shot about 3-4 seconds. So the good thing is, because the dust, that area is super dry. It's that area actually every year have 10 months dry season. Mm-hmm. So elephants are heavy. When the whole herd moving, they are moving like in the cloud. So even as 150 elephants, but you can see the pocket of just one clearing, this one pop up. So, but you have to move very fast and very fast and shoot whatever you can find. So this is the flyby one. I really love this one. Is the mother actually look at our helicopters.
Yeah, the eye contact is very powerful. That moment when the subject looks at the camera, by extension, the subject's looking at the viewer, and that's going to create a meaningful connection when the viewer is looking at your photograph. And I talk a lot about the benefit of using what I call atmospherics. So when I think of atmosphere in a photo, I'm thinking of something that diffuses the light and diffuses the photo, like snow or rain or mist or fog, or in this case, dust. And so I love the backlit dust. It brings in some color, but it also creates this beautiful mood. And that's what I really love about this photo, is the mood that it creates. And a lot of your photos are really, not only are they capturing a magical moment, but you're bringing in also light and color and mood. You're trying to tell a story with your photos. And sometimes I think the stories are pretty self-evident, like two animals fighting or a mother and its cub interacting. I mean, these are great stories. People love seeing that sort of thing. But I really love the photos where you take sort of a wider view and you bring in those creative elements of light and shadow and color, like this photograph. of the oryx on the dunes with that backlit sand is really quite fantastic. It does tell a great story, but it's also a really compelling visual design. And then you've got something like this photograph of the two giraffes and the balloon, the hot air balloon in the background. And
Yeah.
once again, there's a lot. It looks like there might be some mist. This might be some morning mist, and it's
Yeah.
backlit by the rising sun. So there's just beautiful color, and it's got this wonderful mood. And your subject becomes an artistic abstraction. So you see the giraffes in silhouette, same thing with the balloon, but you recognize them. And then you've got your pure magical moments, like this cheetah chasing the rabbit. And then you've got, plenty of kills and things like that. So these are really wonderful, dramatic moments that I think any photographer would be jealous of. But I want to pause briefly on a photo that's coming up. I love the backlit, once again, using that mood, using the backlit fog to bring in that beautiful color at sunrise. It's a great strategy. And these moments are absolutely incredible. But this photo right here, I wanted to talk about that in more detail. I love this photo of a pack of hyenas. It looks like they're taking down a warthog. And there's just something, I can't quite put my finger on it. I love the fact that the warthog's sort of looking back. There's a look of terror in its eyes that I think tells the story. And the slightly dark exposure here, I think, is perfect for the mood. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about what happened in this photo, the story behind it, and your creative choices as an artist when you made this photo?
Well, this is a photo which I took in the very early morning. Actually, this photo shot is before sunrise. So every morning we leave camp. We stay in the park. We leave camp a little bit earlier. For instance, at that day, probably the sunrise is 6:35, but we leave the camp 6 o'clock, just looking for the place we can photograph the sunrise. This actually happens very close to the talic gate of the Masai Mara National Reserve. So my driver, William Twala, who has been working with me for past 8 years, and he knows I'm always looking for the action shot. So when we drive in the almost completely dark, he heard this hyena, yapping, and then we just want to see this pack of about 30, 40 hyenas try to hunt this male warhog. Basically, it's surrounded warhog. So right away, we turn into the site. I try to photograph it. This is the action shot. So I set the camera shutter speed at 500 second. That's as low as I go to photograph action shot, because it's before sunrise. So it was very dark. As you can see, there's only a little bit of ambient light come out before the sunrise. So I use the 7200 because if it's very close, it's just right beside the road. So we stop on the road. I use the 7200. I shot with the aperture of f2.8. So you can see some of the depth of the field. I mean, the top, on the top right corner, that hyena is obviously out of focus because I was using f2.8, focus on the warthog. So, well, it was quite brutal. Finally, they killed the warthog, and then we left. So when I post-processing this image, actually, and also it's worth mentioned, for this image, I used Nikon D6. At that time, we don't have D9 yet. That was 2021, early 2021, I believe. So the ISO of this image, if I'm not mistaken, is anywhere from 25,600 or up, even up, because it's before sunrise.
That is a very high ISO.
Yes, but thanks to the number one, the superb image quality of the D6 performance in high ISO, and also the Topaz AI denoise software, we can get a very good image quality, all of that, all the details. But when I do the post processing, That's what I say. I really love this photo because it conveys the mood and emotions. I can brighten it. Actually, the original image is brighter than this because I intentionally expose a little bit to the right, to a little bit overexpose a little bit more to get more detail out of the dark part. But when I do the post-processing, I actually bring down the brightness to the dark tone. Because I really what I really want in this image to convey is a sad emotional impact. To me, this is like the hyenas are like those catchers of the hell, and that warhog was trying to escape from the hell. So with all those catchers come back hunt him. So this is what it's a desperation and also the out of the hell, this kind of sad, depressed mood. Yeah, go ahead.
That is exactly it. I said earlier that I love the image, but I had a tough time putting on my finger on exactly why. And that is right there. That's exactly it. This tells a story. This looks like demons pulling back someone into hell. That's really what it looks like. It's an amazing photo. I love the story that it tells.
Those hyenas are really, to me, are demons from the hell. Try to grabbing whoever want to escape from it. But as I said, the image conveying the image when we took a photo, how we shoot and how we process it, always convey part of our emotion, our mood to it. So that's good. That's what I call the creative part or the objective part of the photographic creation. That's why photographic as art. Number two is many people don't like it, especially lots of female friends. You see this, I just feel sad. Oh, I don't want to see it. But I have been judging photographic competition. For so many years. When we judging the photographic competition, that's always a category we call emotional impact. The emotional impact can be pleasant. For instance, mother and cubs, everybody see that image. Oh, so cute, so lovely. That's a present. That's a positive emotional impact.
Mm-hmm.
A kill like this, it convey negative impact, make people feel sad. However, as a photographic competition, this is a striking or compelling image to show how brutal the nature is or the nature can be. So that's basically what I want to convey. It's even as a positive emotion in this image, still it shows the true, the raw fact of our nature world. So that's how I really love this image as well.
Yeah, and I always tell people that the very best photos tell a story. I think actually every photo should try to tell a story. And I just did an article and video on PhotoMasters about how you can tell a photo with tell a story with your photos. And it's more than just capturing something interesting. There's creative choices you can make with composition, with your exposure, the use of light and color that will impact the way the story resonates with viewers. So I think it's definitely something that everyone should strive to do. We've got a question that just came in from Wanda, who asks whether you often bracket your exposures. I'm guessing for wildlife, you probably aren't auto bracketing your exposures.
No, I do. Not on this image, not on the action shot. But if you're turning to many of my, not like this is also not bracketing, but the three elephant with the cow?
Yeah.
That image. Can we turn into that image?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can.
The sunrise with the elephant.
Oh, the sunrise with the elephant. Oh, sorry, I think was that.
Yeah, this not this one. Yeah, this one.
This one.
So this is how I see it. How, I mean, as a wildlife photographers, of course, our genre or the way of shooting and the location we're shooting and the subject, mainly subject that we are shooting, are actually how to say it, and actually are very difficult from landscape photography. It seems to me the landscape photographer and the wildlife photographer in the same scenery, similar scenery, their post-processing are so different. For instance, if you Google any location for the landscape sunrise shot, you get a full dynamic image of from the foreground all the way to the cloud to the sun. It's full dynamic image. So because now everybody know doing landscape sunrise sunset shot, you need a bracket in there.
Yeah.
But in the animal scape, what I call the landscape, animal landscape in Africa, if you search on Google for the image of Africa sunset sunrise, 90% of the image come out. It's a silhouette shot, which is the main subject is completely black. Something like that. Actually, this is not really similar silhouette shot. If you pay attention to the giraffe, the giraffe has a pattern on that. But most of them are silhouette shot. Like this image, you cannot do bracketing because the sun, because the giraffe is moving.
Yeah.
The sun right beside it. It's difficult to do it. But if we go back to the elephant shot, I shot that also in 5-stop bracketing. So actually, the image of this, especially the one on the right, the part on the right at this part, the big cloud to the right part, and that part was very bright. But after you do the bracketing, you can combine two exposures into the same image. You use the overexposed image to show more detail. Therefore, the elephant at the backlighting, the elephant has the details, has the patterns. Of course, that image sky is blown, and then you use another low image to combine them. Use luminosity layer mask. It's standard practice for the landscape. Not every image can do this way, but most of the sunset sunrise image of the animal can do that. But not many photographers are practice this. So all the African sunset sunrise, if you see silhouette shot, sometimes I do silhouette shot too, just to gain a special effect. But when you see the 99% of the image of the silhouette shot, you kind of feel something is missing. The good thing about me is I start with as a landscape photographer. So the technique to me is not a secret, but I always try to gain more details in the shot, especially in the morning. If you just shoot the animal with the environment without lots of actions, so the bracketing is very easy to achieve. Actually, last month when we both early this month when we both in Utah did the talk. Actually, I did a talk for the technique part. I used the giraffe with sunrise with 5-stop exposure branding. So it's pretty nice too. So what I really want to see is more and more photographers have applied the technique of the landscape to the wildlife shot. You can make our sunset sunrise animal shot be more detail oriented and more, to expand this genre instead of 90% of silhouette shots.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny because personally, I love working with silhouettes. And I think that silhouettes are going to work with only certain subjects. You need a subject that's got a very recognizable shape. So a giraffe works really well for a silhouette. Other animals might not work as well because in silhouette, you can't tell what they are, but you can definitely tell that this is a giraffe. And I love the action pose here.
Yeah.
And everything else. But a shot like, elephants, elephants work in silhouette, but they don't backlight particularly well. So that's definitely a scenario. If you've got backlighting, elephants don't really have much hair around the edges, so that it doesn't pick up that rim lighting effect.
Yes.
And so unless you've got the elephants against the sky, what you're going to end up with is something that's just unrecognizable. So the shape of the elephant against the sky is recognizable, but if you maybe have a dark backlit elephant against a dark background, you're not going to be able to tell what it is. Right. So I think that different types of images will call for different approaches. And I want to pause on this photo right here. This is another one of my favorites of yours because to me, it shows evidence of a lot of conscious thought about composition. I love how you used, and you can tell us what it is. It looks like maybe it's some water, creating this diagonal line, cutting from the lower right to the upper left of the image. And then the placement of the lion in the lower right beneath that really strong diagonal line, I think is very powerful. And I think this is a very effective visual design. So tell us more about this and what you were thinking about when you made this photo.
So I think we can talk a lot about these photos, starting with this is actually my very early photo. I photographed this one, I believe, in 2013, 2014. I think very first or second time when we go to Amboseli. So what happened is, I think this one is 2014, I believe, February. So we were in Amboseli, actually, on our way back to the camp. It's already at the sunset time, and that day we don't have sunset because that was a crowded day, very dark. So, and on our way back to the camp, when we passed this, this is just I think because that time it's I believe was early March. We just start having some rains in Amboseli, so you have some kind of this kind of water pond. And backlighting, it shows with the reflection, it shows the white color. So the very dominating line here. I actually see this line. You can see at the far end, that's a yellow-billed stork there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was actually trying to photograph that yellow-billed stork, and then I saw this line. Actually, it's the injured female. It's a back leg is limping, so it goes very, very, very slow walking. So it's easier for us. In Amboseli, you cannot really get off road. You have to walk, drive on the road to work with this scene.
Yeah.
But however, that's another thing about the black and white. I started with black and white landscape photography in the film time. So to me, black and white is one of the genres I love the most because I think in black and white, I can express lots of myself in the image. I do. I mean, if anybody knows me in the image, I never remove, relocate, or add or subtract the content. But my post processing is very, very complicated. Like this image is in the composition. When I photograph this, I already decided this composition. So when we were learning photographies, people said, okay, there's some rules. Rule of third, right? Rule of third. You should put this line on the bottom right 1/3 corner, because you leave more space to the left because she's walking to the left, right? So it's the exact. But for me, this image when I photograph it, I just feel. Because in the viewfinder, you look very dark, look very depressed. Well, I want to enhance this this sense of depression. So I actually put this line very low and very close to the corner. So it's not at 1/3, it's 1/5 of the bottom. But I leave a vast place on the top to show the vast, the big wilderness against this lonely injured line, to show the helplessness of this line in that. And you can see the line is very down, its head, very low, the leg walk funny. It's a very depressed image, but this is the brutality of the nature. Yeah, I don't know how this line get injured. Maybe just lack of the food, or he lose a fight to get injured. But what I want to do is a lonely line. If I put 1/3, you don't get so much loneliness in all of this image. The composition I compress to the corner and leave 4/3 of the space, 4/5 of the space, just one dominating line of the water pond to show the season, and also leading the wherever your eyes look at this image. The line will lead you to this line. So the line is the main subject. This is how we use the what we call language of photography to guide the view to go into your mind when you take this photo. So this is what I call very depressed. But that's what I want to show. At that time, I think I did a whole series of the fine art, black and white in Ambossade in early stage. Is all kind of like this dark, lonely. I want to really show the loneliness of the wildlife. Because
Yeah, and I think
remember just going fewer and fewer year after year.
Mhm.
And if we don't pay attention to conservation, maybe even this line, we don't see them anymore.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, this illustrates really well how your creative choices as a photographer can change the story or change the way you convey it to the viewer. So the choice of the dark exposure, your choice of composition, all helps tell the story. And I like to tell people to never use the rule of thirds, because I think it just creates compositions that don't typically work, because most scenes don't really line up with the rule of thirds that well. And sometimes they do, but very rarely they don't. I think you should be composing your photographs to work with the shapes that you have available, that you're using in your visual design. And here, I think you put everything in the perfect place to work with those shapes, in particular, that really strong diagonal line created by the water in the background. I mean, that line was so critical to this composition, and you put it exactly where it needed to be to make it work with the image. Talking about injured lions, here's a very famous lion from Kenya. As a matter of fact, I've got some photographs of this lion as well. Tell us really quickly about the backstory about this lion.
Scar probably is one of the most well-known lions in the whole world, because I think the Big Cat's Diary of Disney, the African Cats of Disney, and Big Cat's Diary, and also BBC documentaries, all capture this lion.
Mhm.
So it was like a celebrity of the lions in Masamara.
Now, just to be clear, the name Scar was inspired by the character from The Lion King, not the other way around.
No. I think when Lion King was on, the Scar is not even born yet.
Not even born, exactly.
Yeah. But I think the Scar is belong to a 4 male pack. Morani, Scar Hunter, and another one. So they actually one of the strongest, biggest lion pride in Masamara. They are controlled from the northwest part of Masamara, Musila Gate. The Paradise Paradise Mesh, all the way to the. I think at their heightened time, they all the way from Paradise Plain to the Rhino Ridge. So about 360 kilometers square, which consists with about 80 to 90 lions. But lions' lifespan is only one. It's only like 10. Like 12, 13 years. Usually when they took over the pride, that will be the age of 5 to 7, when they are young and strong. And when they die, usually by the age of 12, 13. So actually Scar passed away 2021 at the age of 70, I believe. So that day, actually, when I photographed Scar of this image is we heard that he got injured, so he was lying beside the road for a few days. Many people went to photograph it, and of course we went too, because my client, I was leading the tours. My clients really want to see the Scar, so I went there, and so basically it was sleeping. Once a while he'd wake up, just lift up the head, look around, and went back to sleep again. But I was designing this one because I really want to show this beat up old Lion King. You can see from the grass, the tree leaves on the face. And
Yeah.
he was like homeless, like not very well groomed. All the hair strand like that. But once in a while, when he raising the head and look at you, you still see the viciousness of the Lion King
Yeah.
there. So that really I want to capture that moment is when its eyes lift up, look at us. And I particularly shoot from this side because I just want the eyes, the injured eye in the image, but I don't want that eye become the main point of interest. I want the scar in the image. And you can see in post processing, I actually reduce the contrast and darken that area a little bit to make this eye, the bad eye, not very obvious.
Yeah.
Still in the image to tell the story. I want to show the character. And even more so, I actually use black and white. I think I use the silver effects, mixed silver effects. I use a high structure filter just to pull more, details and textures out of its injury on the nose, on the face, etc. So this is actually I really want to show is the character of this line. Even it's beat up, it's almost died, but still when he look at you, you still can recognize the majesty and the viciousness of the Lion King once ruled the whole Masamara.
Yeah, it's amazing that a one-eyed lion lived for as long as it did and thrived for as long as it did. And while I'm going through a few more images, we had a question from Abdul Hussein about when you're doing exposure blending, are you manually blending your photos in Photoshop or are you using the merge to HDR option in Lightroom?
No, I have to manually stack the image in the Photoshop because basically when you're shooting the animalscape in the safari vehicle, you cannot use tripod. You try to hold your hand as steady as possible. So no matter how careful you are, there's always a little bit of misplacement between the shots. An animal will move too. Even they are not moving, but their tail may be wagging or their hair may be blown by the. So the first shot and the fifth shot, they're always a little different. So it will be easier if you blend them manually in the Photoshop. What I did is I put I stack them in the Photoshop, and then I for instance, that's the image of the giraffe. I don't line up the giraffe because the giraffe will be moving. I line up a tree or a dominant stick in grass stick in the image, which is not affected by the movement of the animal. I try to put the top layer at a 50% opacity, just to moving them until it matches the second one perfectly, and I will blend them in.
Okay. So the crossing of the Mara River is one of the main attractions for photographers who are visiting Kenya and Tanzania, and it really is an incredible event. If you're lucky, you'll see a crocodile make a kill, though most of the times I've been there, I've just seen some very fat and sleepy crocodiles. So you do have to be lucky to get that particular moment. This photo of the crossing here, I absolutely love. I love the composition. That strong diagonal line of the wildebeest crossing is really amazing. And I tell people that when you're using lines in your compositions, diagonal lines are often going to be more compelling to the viewer than just a vertical or a horizontal line. Because a vertical line takes the viewer from bottom to top in the photograph. A horizontal line will take the viewer from left to right. But a diagonal line cuts across both axes. So the viewer goes from bottom to top and from left to right when it follows that diagonal line. But what makes this photo to me is those two wildebeest leaping up, creating that really powerful point of interest. That is the area of the photo that the viewer automatically goes to. That line created by the wildebeest, that gets the eye moving around. It wants to follow the line, but that point of interest of those two wildebeest jumping up just always brings the viewer back to that visual anchor, to that point in the composition. And it works because there's nothing behind those wildebeest but dust. And so they stand out, they're distinct. So this must have been a real challenge. You must have been sitting there just with your motor drive going crazy, making hundreds and hundreds of photos over and over again. Or were you just waiting for this particular moment where something like this was going to happen? What was going on?
Right now, well, I was leading a tour, which one of my students, actually the winner of the last year's the Travel Photographer of the Year, Adventure and Landscape winner, Jim Fisher. She was right beside me in the vehicle. And when we photographed this, basically, when you photograph the migration, especially big herd, they will cross in about 10-15 minutes. So I always try to visualize it because I've photographed so many times. I try to visualize with two. I always use two cameras. Number one, 70-200. So when you photograph the crossing, usually from 25 to 50 meters away from the riverside on the other side and come to your way, you can use a 70 to give a very vast view of the whole herd that shows in the sheer numbers of the wildebeest coming down. Or you can use a long lens to photograph the jumping point, what we call the jumping point. So, and this is the one I use the long lens to shoot. I believe was anywhere from 350 to 400 millimeters. So,
what was the shutter speed to capture this?
This is 1600 f8, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, the real difference. So when they start to jump, actually, they are jump at the beginning. The composition is not that good because whereas they jumping, they just scatter around. But the good thing is the whole thing lasts because that was a big herd. The whole thing lasts about 40 minutes. So when they will keep jumping, and you can see the river actually carry the wildebeest move downward, downstream, and I was telling my student, I said, try to capture the wildebeest in diagonal line because they're gonna reach that. They just sweep from right to the left. And but the very difficult thing on that day actually is the dust, because there's so much dust you actually cannot really focus on them. 1 minute, 1 second, it was clear. Seconds, next second, the dust come up. So what I did is I actually, because we use FA aperture, so I photographed I actually focus on where they started jumping. You can see under this two wildebeest, that's another wildebeest. Actually, that one is jumping over the log. I was focusing on that log, and then I just turn it into manual.
Yeah.
And then I just put the composition, make sure that the wildebeest, the end of the wildebeest always end at the diagonal line. So the composition is fixed, and then I just keep shooting about 10 minutes. I shot about 5,000 images with just almost identical composition. Just see which one among this 5,000 images you pick up. Two jumping, and also not much dust in front of them.
Yeah.
So that image is pre-visualized the composition, pre-focused distance. So the composition is predetermined, and then just wait for the wildebeest jumping into, because they all jumping from that point. No exceptions. So I think for me, starting as a landscape photographer, turning into the wildlife photography, to me, 70% of my image is about composition. I think composition is the most powerful language of photography, which you can make a compelling statement to grab your viewer in the instance.
Yeah, I love the way that you put that. And, once again, this photograph, great composition. The visual design is stunning. all the dust creates a mood. And I think it's important that when you're making photographs, you have an idea in your head of what you want the photograph to be. So that's where great photography starts, is in the mind of the photographer.
Right.
And you basically have to wait for the real world to spontaneously align with your creative vision. And with wildlife, that may require you to sit there for 10 minutes making thousands of photos because you're waiting for this composition to happen. And sometimes it doesn't happen. But having that, as you said, pre-visualization, that goes back to what Ansel Adams talked about. He called it pre-visualization and post-visualization. So pre-visualization was imagining the things you would do before you triggered the shutter to make the final photograph look the way that it would. And post-visualization was imagining what you would do when you took the photo into the dark room and made changes in the post-production process. So that's how he demarcated these between pre and post visualization. But the key word is visualization, is having a strong creative concept in your head so that you know what you're trying to accomplish. And that allows you to get photographs like these. I mean, these are all stunning photographs, and some of it is luck, is waiting, but it takes a lot of foresight and it takes a lot of practice and patience to get these photos. You have to know the behaviors of your subjects. You have to know how to work in tricky light, like a scene like this, where you've got a really bright sunrise in the background. So you need to know how, for example, when your subjects are in silhouette or mostly in silhouette, you need visual separation, like between these two lions. If your position had been different and the two lions merged, you would have lost their shapes. So you have to know all of these aspects of photography to successfully visualize and then execute on your photo. Now, I really love this photo here. Great colors, certainly a great subject. And I love the little compositional elements. Like, for example, the paw of the lion stretched out creates a line. And that line is repeating the lines formed by the clouds that are lit by the rising or the setting sun here. And so I just love all those little details. This, I take it, was another one of your HDR exposure bracket images?
This one is not actually, because the sun is outside the frame.
Okay.
The sun is on the left hand side. This image actually is shooting toward northwest. But the thing you need to mention is many people, they come to Africa and they said, I gotta shoot the wildlife, I want an action shot, I want a portrait shot, so I will bring the long lens. This image is captured with a 14 millimeter lens.
Mm-hmm.
So the lion basically is about 2 meters away from a vehicle. I actually shot this image from my vehicle window with a 14 millimeter lens. So, how to say it, I think you don't see lots of wide angle shots in the wildlife sceneries, simply because the image, the wildlife is dangerous,
Yeah.
But if you've been Africa often enough, you know that many places you can access to very close to the wildlife without being threatened or harmed by the wildlife. Because some places, like in South Africa, Kruger National Park, in Masai Mara, in Serengeti, in Tanzania, animals basically they grow up with the vehicle surrounding them. So as long as you are not leaving the vehicle, you just do a pass by. So what we do this is we saw this light and we saw this light and also this line. So what we did is I was with my clients too, and I asked them to prepare first. This image we're gonna shot. I said we're gonna shot at 1,000 of second because even they are not moving, because our vehicle will be moving.
Yeah.
So 1,000 of second, f8 or f11, ISO auto. So you shooting about ISO about anywhere from 3200 to 6400, which in today's technology, the noise is very easy to be dealt with in the post processing. But first, we have to be prepared. And you don't drive to the line and stop 2 meters in front of it. The line will turn around and walk. So what we did is we just approaching the line from 20 meters away, we stop a vehicle. So everybody get ready. I told them stretch out their hand outside the window, just to shoot. Make sure what I really want to achieve is make sure the line is on the horizon. Because you cannot really on the ground shoot the line completely above the horizon. And you don't want the horizon actually cut off the line's body. So actually do not shoot very low, but in an angle, make sure the line is under the horizon. So contrast with the green carpet like grass, because it's a rain season. So the green color contrasts the golden color of the lion's fur is quite beautiful. And then we just drive slowly past the lion from 2 meters away. Lion did not even look at us. The lion was stretching the head, look at its brother actually walking toward him from like 700 meters away. So what we did is everybody get ready. The vehicle start driving slowly, just nonstop, just pass by the line. When we pass the line, we start to photograph. Like everybody, like 10, 15 frames continuously to get like that. We actually did a 2 run. The line did not pay any attention to us. That's how you do it.
Yeah, it's amazing when you're photographing these animals, they could be 10 feet away and they don't care that you're there. When they look at the safari vehicle, they probably think you're just a hippo or something like that. And I love doing wide angle wildlife photography. I think the wide angle can allow you to tell a more interesting story because you're bringing in visual elements other than just the animal. And it also allows you to get more creative with the composition. As I said earlier, I just love all the lines. That wide angle perspective when you have a stormy sky like this creates all these lines and curves and really wonderful shapes in the sky.
And if we back off to previous image.
This one.
So this, I want to talk about this image.
Yes, of course.
Pre-visualization of this image. I think the day we photographed this, that day sunset at 6:40. We know that's a lion pride right beside this turbine mount, because previously on the Photoshop, on the Facebook, we saw somebody photographing these 2 lions, the lion cub. These are actually not adult lions. Those are cubs about 10 months old, 10 months to 12 months old. So the 2 cubs keep playing, and they were playing right beside this mom. So I saw this in the image. So I talked to my driver, who have been working with me for past 10 years, William Twala and Jackson Ranko. So they understand what I need. And we predict that we have a very big chance by the sunset, they're going to come out to bring around. But instead of shooting front lighting, I want to shoot backlighting to increasing sun as one point of interest there. So, and then we went there to check out this lion pride. And we went there. The lion pride is about 25 meters from this turbine mount. Under a big bush, they have about 7, 8 cubs. Those are 2 big ones. And they have a very small, like 3 to 5 months cub, was playing in the long grass. So we went there, we see the lion, and also with we have 2 vehicles. And also on that side, we have another 6, 7 vehicles, also photographer's vehicle. What happened is when they see the lion pride playing in the bush, they right away go to the bush, try to get closer, to photograph the cubs play. But for me, I want this so bad, we actually from 5:30, we already parked there. I used the photo pills to see where the sunset is, and we already determined the composition. If we shoot with 70 millimeter, what the composition gonna be like? If we shoot 24 millimeter, what the composition gonna be like? So we actually stay there. The 2 vehicles stay there from 5:30 to 6:30, just to get this shot.
Yeah.
Everybody is photograph. We don't want to do well. Everybody, I want this shot so bad.
Yeah.
So we just wait there. Luckily, by 6 o'clock, two line cops walking out, started playing, climbing this one up and down. So we had a good 15 minutes of this session, just shooting this angle with two line cops interacting with each other. And that way, I think everybody get about 10, 15 good image with different composition like that. So to predict, and I want to conclude this is you want to have a compelling image. Many times you need to understand the animal's behavior. Therefore, you can predict animal's behavior. And also you need somebody who really understands animal behavior, especially the driver. I have been following me for 10 years. They are local born and raised Maasai. They were herding cows in Masai Mara since 8 years old, like 9 years old. So they know elephants behave, the wild elephant behavior very well. So you have this persuasion as you try to explain to them. And you work together as a team to work out to get this. That's a perfect example how we get that shot that day. Because
having a good guide is critical.
From this angle, you only have two vehicles. The third vehicle, you will lose this angle.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
We predicted, and also, we just waited there from while everybody's shooting them, playing the bush, we just wait here.
Well, and I think this illustrates the two different strategies that you can use when you're making photographs. You can either basically just go around looking for something interesting and crossing your fingers and hoping you get lucky, or you can visualize a shot and sit there and wait for it, hoping that it happens. And there are benefits and there are downsides to both.
Yes.
Certainly if you're just driving around, you might get really lucky and find something amazing, or you might find nothing. And if you're sitting there waiting, sometimes nothing happens. You don't get the shot. You have to keep doing it over and over, and you get kind of stuck with tunnel vision. But then when it does come together, you get some amazing shots. Really quick, what was the millimeter lens that you used for this shot?
14. This one is 14 millimeter.
Yeah. And we had a question from Atib about what app you're using for determining the sun position. You had said PhotoPills. Okay, so we have already gone over the typical amount of time that I do for these. Usually I do an hour, but this has been a fascinating conversation, so I want to keep going. But I do want to speed things up so we don't go too far over. The next few images are actually, for me personally, my favorite photos of yours. And I just love the abstract patterns and the colors of these photos. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing here and how you got these great shots?
Okay, this image are shot in the Lake Magadi of Kenya, which is quite a small lake. Actually, there are two separate lakes, one called Big Magadi, one called Little Magadi. I think that's one very well-known area of photography destination in Africa, which is Lake Nature. Many photographers went there, did area photography, etc. So Lake Magadi is 15 kilometers from Lake Nature, but in Kenya side, completely in Kenya side. And they were Lake Nature and Lake Magadi, they both fed by the active volcano Rangai, which the last eruption is 2013. In the Rangai mountain series, so all the active volcano activity actually has lots of hot spring spewing into these two lakes. And where they are, Lake Nature and Lake Magadi, they are in the lowest part of the East Rift Valley. So they have nowhere, the water have nowhere to go. Therefore, so the water stay here, and that area is super hot. They have about 10 months dry season every year. And the water just keep evaporating. So after millions of years, the lake bottom actually is a very thick condensation of all the dry chemicals. The lake, by the way, the lake itself is quite poisonous. Its pH level is 11 to 12. So only flamingo with their skin can tolerate the water. Therefore, flamingo use lake nature as a nature defensive ground to breeding. Lake nature actually is 2 million lesser flamingos, the only breeding ground in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So Magadi have a similar, Magadi have almost identical geology and weather, but Magadi, because it's so small, they cannot contain like 2 million 2 million flamingos. So there are only few hundred of them every year, and but usually the color you will see is from different chemical condensation from different layer at the lake bottom. The lake, you look so big. Actually, the lake only anywhere from 30 centimeter, which is less than a foot, to 1 foot, 1 foot and 3/4 inch deep. So it's like a flat pan. So every year, just the pattern come out the most beautifully is every year when the rain season just started. So, and we were lucky that year, those images all shot in 2019 because that's the year the weather getting very abnormal. Usually when the typhoon or hurricane landed in the African continent, usually they landed in South Africa around Madagascar area. But that year, 3 hurricanes go after they landed, made the landfall in Madagascar. They all inland, they all go up toward the equator. So they finally all reach the Kenya side. Actually, that year Kenya had a very big drought. Not the drought, a big, very big flood. Actually, Lake, I remember Lake Nakuru dam was broken, so displaced about 125,000 residents. So when the storm swept the very shallow lake, what happened is it stirred the pot of the condensation. So it's just like you use the painting brush in the palette, in the color palette, you just blend that. So all those best images all shot the second day or the day after storm passed. And the whole lake is full of these kind of patterns and different colors. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. So we had a question about whether you were in a balloon or what?
Helicopter.
Helicopter. Yeah. Really amazing photos. There was another question that came in from Karen. How much cropping do you typically do with your images? Is cropping something you do frequently with your wildlife or infrequently?
Well, if you shoot very slow moving of subject like sunrise with a giraffe with elephants, I hardly crop. I usually compose in the frame. That's number one. But when the action shot, you don't have time to really consider the cropping, consider the composition. So you have to just shoot a little loose. Okay, you capture the action first, and then the composition is through the cropping in the post processing.
Yeah.
So like this, the lion was there drinking water for 7 minutes. Of course, you have enough time to compose this line in the frame. But when the cheetah fighting or the 2 jackal fighting, you have to shoot a little bit loose because you don't know when the best action you end up with in which part of the image. And your camera consistently move with them.
So these final images were taken from a hide at night.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit more about how you made these photos, which are absolutely stunning, by the way?
I actually the image in the hide actually I have a very good friend Benson Mate from Hungary, and he's a hide expert. I think he built most of the professional photographic hide in Europe, in Africa, South Africa, Zimanda, to be precise, and also in the rainforest at Costa Rica in the South America. So he's a very good friend of mine. We've been working together for a very long time. I know this location can build a very good hide, but we were talking about collaboration with Benson Mate. But and then you know what happened is COVID happened. So
Yeah.
COVID happened. The camp, the owner of the camp, who actually believed in me, that I showing him the image of other highlights, and you can build the same thing. And I can tell you with your animal diversity of this area, you will have so much beautiful images nobody else will believe we capture from the high. So he actually listening to me, and then we decided the light system. That basically is if you go back 5 more images with the lion drinking water first, yeah, that's the more. Yes, this one and the lion. This is the first stage, which we put 6 LED lights, okay, at night to photograph the lion from 7 meters away. But as we evolve, I try to make changes, try to add more, and I would say, oh, if we have some side lighting or some backlighting, even better. So that's the one. From this image on, is we captured this year. In this year, the most significant in last year, second half, I believe in October, November, we add the backlighting and the side lighting to create a more dramatic effect of the lighting conditions.
This is my favorite from the series, actually.
Yeah.
You know, even though you photographed a lot of really big, charismatic animals like lions and other big cats, this one is my absolute favorite. It's the least exciting species in the series, but I love the lighting and I love the dynamic shape created by the curving tail reflected in the water. I think this is a fantastic photo.
Yeah, that's a white-tailed mongoose. I think most of the people, they look at the high, they will prefer to see either cats or the big animals like giraffes or elephants. But for me, those that's lying in the sunrise as well.
Right.
I was actually photographed the giraffe, and all of the giraffe just raised the head and run away.
Yeah.
And then we just know something big is happening, so we just waited. The lion come out, just right something. This is something you don't see it anywhere else. And also, I love photographing the high at night because lots of nocturnal, like this one, and also the previous, the caracal, you don't see them in the daytime. White-tailed mongoose, you also don't see them in the daytime.
Yeah.
This is the caracal. You don't see them in the daytime. But at night, when you turn the lights on, just light up the pond, just wait for the animal coming to drinking, and you see so many unusual species you otherwise don't see them. And especially this hide in Kenya, in Lantori, that high is at the border of 4 microclimate. It's 11 kilometers from the rainforest, mall forest. It's 3 kilometers from dry desert riverbed, and itself in a high plateau bush area. So like caracal, and sometimes we have the civet cat, which is a rainforest cat, come drinking at the same pond at the same night with striped hyena and caracals, which is a dry desert animals, and they all come to the same pond. And I have seen the some image. It's so phenomenal because I just left. I think the day I left, the last tour we were there, the day I left. So other photographer went in, and the next day she shared the video online. It's a leopard and the giraffe drinking at the same pond. It's a phenomenal. So they and also leopard with the porcupine. So they were drinking the same pond. And without the drinking water, they can become enemies. The leopard try to hunt it. But when they drinking in the dry area, when they are drinking, it's like a ceasefire agreement.
Yeah.
It's a secret moment. Everybody can drink. So you don't hunt me when I'm drinking. But after you drink, you left the pond, I may hunt you like that.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. And
well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say this subject right here is a perfect subject for backlighting because there's so many translucent surfaces. So it just backlights beautifully. It looks like it's lit from within. Marsha had a question. She wants to know where this hide is located.
This high is in Kenya called Lantori, which located in the how to describe it? That's a town called Magadi. Actually, Lantori, Lentorre, Lantori Lodge. Right now, if you search the Kenya hide photography, HIDE hide photography, probably it pop up right up. It's very professionally done. So where we stayed is solar powered air conditioning unit. So even outside is 110 Fahrenheit. Inside is quite cool, and we use LED light, ample color, so we don't actually try to not affect the animal. We don't use a flash, so all the animal come to the water voluntarily, and we don't use a flash, and we actually do not allow using flash in that height because we don't want to harm those nocturnal animals.
Well, Jeffrey, thank you. This has been a fascinating conversation. I am afraid we are out of time. As a matter of fact, we were out of time about 40 minutes ago. But this was so good. I just wanted to keep on going. Your photographs are amazing. They're inspiring. I'm very jealous of those photos. I want those photos in my portfolio, and I'm sure everyone who watched this presentation feels the same way. Thank you so much for your wisdom and for your wonderful stories. Had a great time. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll see you guys next time on PhotoMasters Live. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks, everybody. Good night.